Hello, everybody. At our Burns Night celebrations last year, who would have guessed how we would be celebrating this year? Well, we are where we are, and I welcome you all to our special afternoon of music and dance with traditional celebration of Robert Burns' birthday. But when we finish with Auld Lang Syne and the polka, do make sure that you do not trip over anything in the room. Stay with us after the formal proceedings, as it will be possible for you all to chat with each other using the Zoom chat facility. Before I hand over to James Fairbairn and Peter Knight, who will guide us through these offerings, I muse on the original creation of Scotland. The angel Gabriel was talking to God and asked, "What are you working on today?" And God said, "I'm making a place called Scotland. It's going to have stunning mountains with fast flowing rivers full of beautiful brown trout, the most beautiful lochs, a stunning coastline with lush green land and fantastic blue skies and sunsets that will blow your mind. The people are going to be friendly and intelligent, and I'm going to give them a national drink called whiskey." Gabriel said, "Aren't you going a bit over the top with this Scotland? The people will think they are already in heaven." "Well, not really," said God. "Just wait until I tell you about the neighbours." On that note, let us not forget Robert Burns himself. Robert walked into a pub and ordered a wee dram. The barman said, "Sorry, I can't serve you. You're barred." And before the groans get too loud, I think I best hand over to our first MC for this afternoon, Peter Knight. Thank you.
Except for one, all the dances tonight are from Tunbridge Ceilidh between 1988 and 1990. See if you can spot any London dancers. If so, put your answer on chat. I will give a short description of each, a longer one with historical facts on the branch YouTube. The first dance is the Perth Assembly, which, like several tonight, was collected by Mrs. Mary Isdale McNabb. This is a sword dance for 8 men, performed by Tunbridge dancers. Piper is Ian Geddes.
Well, I'm very glad I'm watching that and not dancing it, everyone. Looks very energetic to me. We're now going to have a talk from Meryl Thompson about the origins of the dance, the music and the instructions for the Cumberland Reel. And after that, Ian and Meryl are going to play for that dance. And I'm sure you'll all appreciate very much their two-part arrangements, which highlight the melody and the rhythm and make dancing to them, in my opinion, a very great pleasure indeed. So over to Meryl.
Who hasn't danced the Cumberland Reel at a Ceilidh or Scottish country dance event? This simple and popular dance has a more complicated history. Why is it called the Cumberland Reel when the music is a jig? There are several versions of a dance called the Cumberland Reel from around 1796, all set to music in real time, but with differing dance instructions. Some have the last 8 bars dancing rights and lefts, others doing a poussette or dancing lead outsides. The tune we know as used for the Cumberland Reel nowadays was written around 1819 to 20 by John Charles White, whose father was a music shop owner and publisher based in Bath, and this was used for his quadrille called Les Deux Rivals in his third set of quadrilles. His 32-bar country dance with the name Vulcan's Cave was published shortly afterwards and used this same tune. He was already having problems with people pinching his music, as can be seen at the top of his dance manuscript, where he has the wording, "Spurious editions of this tune having appeared, for which the publishers of them have suffered severely, the proprietor do hereby caution all persons and inform them that any who infringe on his copyright may depend on being prosecuted against." By around 1822, however, the tune and dance Vulcan's Cave had appeared in Shiver's Manual of Dancing, although the dance was 48 bars in length. The dance had also reached Cumbria, found in the collection of the Reverend Robert Harrison of Brampton. By 1836, Clementi includes a different 32-bar version in his book of dances. In 1867, a dance called the Cumberland Reel, with instructions much as we know today, appears in a handwritten notebook by Kate Hughes, called the Dundalk Manuscript. However, there is no music and the dance is 40 bars. The Boring Guide of Dancing by H.D. Wilcock, published in Glasgow around 1867, and J.F. Wallace's Excelsior Dancing Manual of 1872 also give a 40-bar dance similar to that of today. Right hands across, left hands back, lead down the middle and up, all cast and lead back up to the top. But then the instructions are given to all promenade for 8 bars and first couple poussette to the bottom for 8 bars, giving a 40-bar dance. Neither collection has music, so we don't know if anyone was using the Vulcan's Cave tune for the dance at this time. Interestingly, the Vulcan's Cave tune was also known by several other names, such as the King of the Cannibal Islands, the Cannibal Islands referred to being Fiji. This is the name of a rather politically incorrect popular comic song set to the melody by A.W. Humphreys about 1830, and sung by him with great applause at the London concerts. There was an actual King Kakabau who was crowned King of Fiji in 1867. So at some unknown point, the jig-time music of Vulcan's Cave was associated with the dance the Cumberland Reel in Scotland. But who first connected them, and indeed who devised the 32-bar version of the dance we now know, is a mystery. If you know more, get in touch.
So just before we dance it, we're going to invite Judith Jones to give us a quick recap. Judith, over to you.
Thank you. And thank you, Meryl, for those insights into the history of the dance and its tune. And now it's our turn to dance. Please make sure, if you're dancing, that you have a safe space to dance in and nothing that's going to trip you up as you dance. Please take a partner. You may be one of those people lucky enough to have another dancer in the house. Otherwise, take a virtual or ghost partner. Anybody you like. My husband would run like a stag for the hills if he thought he was going to have to dance. But as a virtual partner, he doesn't put a foot wrong. Assemble your ghosts into a 4-couple long-wise set. This is a 4-couple dance. And here's the recap. 1s and 2s, you dance right hands across and left hands back again. Then the 1s lead down for 4 bars and back to place. The 1s, followed by the 2s, followed by the 3s, followed by the 4s, cast off on your own side for 6 bars. Meet your partner and dance up for 6 bars, all back where you came from. You have 4 bars left, The 2s, 3s and 4s are going to make an arch and the 1s dance under to 4th place. Well, that's the RSCDS instruction, but as Meryl pointed out, there are many variants on the dance. If you want to cast off for 4 bars, lead up for 4 bars, down through the arch for 4 bars, you and your ghosts have got 4 bars left to have a burl, because we're all missing that. And anyway, no one can see. So whether you're dancing or whether you're not, enjoy Ian and Mel's music for the Cumberland Reel.
The next dance is the Rose of Benbecula. This is a step dance for 3 ladies, collected by Mrs. McNabb. The dancers are Fiona Grant, Maureen McCrudden, and Atsuka Clement, dancing to mouth music by Laura Dane Rintu.
Sunshine.
Well, that was beautiful singing as well as beautiful dancing. And we're now going to come on to one of the essentials of a burn supper, the address to the Haggis, which is going to be performed for us tonight by Ian Rutherford. There's a story, possibly apocryphal, that Robert Burns wrote this in response to a challenge, in that he was sitting in Edinburgh with the Highland fencibles one night, and they probably had a few drinks, and somebody said to him, "Aye, Rab, you're a grand poet, but even you couldn't write a poem about a haggis." And Robert Burns looked at him and said, "Just watch me." And this is what the result was. But before Ian, we have the haggis being piped in by Ryan and some other helpers. Over to you, Ryan.
Fair four on his sonsy face, great chieftain of the Pudden race, abin the ma ye take your place. Pinch, tripe, or firm, will you word you a grace, as lang's my arm. The groaning trencher there you fill, your hurdies like a distant hill, your pin would help to mend a mill in time of need, while through your pores the dews distill, like amber bead. His knife, see rustic labour dight, and cut ye up with ready sleight, trenching your gushing entrails bright like ony ditch. Then, oh, what a glorious sight! Warm reeking, rich. Then horn for horn they stretch and strive, dealt like the hindmost on they drive, to lather wheel swamped kites will ever bent, like drums. And all good man mayst like to rive, if thanked hums. Is there, that our his French ragout, or olio would staw a sou, or fricassee would mak her spew a perfect scunner, looks doon, with sneering, scorn for view and sick a dinner? Dear divil, see him, our his trash, as feckless as a withered rash, his spindle shank a good whiplash is even knit, through bloody flood their field to dash. Oh, how unfit. But mark the rustic haggis fed. The trembling earth resounds his tread. Clap in his valley knee a blade, and he'll mak it whistle, and legs and arms and heats'll sned, like taps o' thistle. Ye poors that make mankind your care, and dish them out their bill of fare. All Scotland wants nae skinking ware that joups and luggies, but if you want her great for prayer, ye're a haggis.
Thank you, Ian and Ryan. Now two short dances. The first is Scotch on the Rocks, a modern duet devised by Pat Reed and danced by Eileen Orr, the deviser of the Dreamcatcher, and George Daly, to Brian Breeden's pipe band. This is followed by Papa Stour, a very old sword dance for 7 men, performed by Tunbridge dancers. I will let Colin Robertson give the introduction.
sword dance of Papastur. Papastur being a very small island within the Shetland Isles. The dance predates Christianity, but today involves the characters of the champions of Christendom. So I would call upon, from England, St. George, from France, St. Denis, St. Patrick from Ireland, St. James from Spain, St. Anthony from Italy, St. David from Wales, and last but not least, from Scotland, St. Andrews. St. Andrew. The dance for you, the sword dance of Papastur.
That was very interesting to watch. I've never seen that done before. And I wonder whether we shouldn't revive it in some form. 7 strong men and true. We're now going to go on to the Immortal Memory, the toast to the immortal memory of Robert Burns, which is going to be proposed tonight by Jim Henderson. Jim originally hails from Perth, and he is, I think, the only honorary president of the Burns Club of London, for whom he acted as secretary for a very, very long time. And he's now preparing to be for his presidential year that will be starting this summer. It will run from 2021 to 2022. Jim probably knows all there is to know, or all that you need to know about Robert Burns, and he'll be sharing some of that great knowledge and insight with us now. So I pass the baton to Jim Henderson.
Thank you very much, James, for that introduction. I don't know about the new President of the United States or the previous one, but Washington, Jefferson, Lincoln, and Roosevelt were all great admirers of Robert Burns. I knew many of his poems by heart. That gives some indication of why all over the world there are so many celebrations of his birthday being held, but not many as good as this one. Robert had quite an unpromising start in life. He was born 25th January 1759 as the son of an impecunious tenant farmer. So from his early teens, he had to do a man's work around the farm, and that almost certainly contributed to his early death from a heart condition at the age of only 37. And yet, he left behind something like 700 poems and songs, which he had to be written with a quill pen, often by candlelight, after a hard day's work in the fields. His father was very keen for his children to have as good an education as was possible at the time. His mother and an elderly relative who stayed with them sang songs to the children and recited and told them folk stories. That combination possibly was what encouraged him to turn his hand to writing poetry in his teens. And of course, that's what led to his fame. He would have enjoyed being with us tonight, although like all of us, he would have much preferred to be with friends in person, but we're grateful for Zoom. Also, he was one of us. In a letter to a friend, he wrote, "In my 17th year, to give my manners a brush, I went to a country dancing school." And a bit later, his brother Gilbert wrote, "Robert excelled in dancing. And for some time, he was distractedly fond of it." Does that remind you of anyone? And in Tam O'Shanter, he tells of warlocks and witches in a dance. "Nae cotillion brent new fae France, but hornpipes, jigs, strathspeys and reels, but life and metal in their heels." Now, Burns could be withering about hypocrites, but a major feature of his work that I'll concentrate on tonight was love. It was a crush on a girl he was working with in the harvest field in his teens that inspired him to write his first poem. One verse of it is, "A bonny lass, I will confess, is pleasant to the ee, but without some better quality, she's no the lass for me." And he went on to write many celebrated love songs, including "My Love is Like a Red, Red Rose" and "A Fond Kiss." He didn't just write poems about young love, though. In John Anderson, My Joe, he says everything that many older couples feel, but probably don't often enough say. Patriotism, love for his country, was another aspect. His first book of poems was entitled Poems Chiefly in the Scottish Dialect. And this pride in the language, the history and the traditions of Scotland went down well with his countrymen, and it still does to this day. He did a wonderful job of collecting old folk songs, a task that was, a whole century later, was taken up by Cecil Sharp for English folk music. In preparing these old songs and scraps that he picked up for publication, Robert had to refine them and sometimes even clean them up, although he was no prude, as is well recorded. In fact, it is possible that he's the only farmer who prayed for crop failure after sowing his wild oats. His passion was mixed with compassion. In one of his letters, he wrote, "God knows I am no saint. I have a whole host of sins and follies to answer for. But if I could, I would wipe away all tears from all eyes." And in a poem, he wrote, "Then gently scan your brother man." His love was expressed too for the beauty and the grandeur of the countryside and of the creatures in it. He certainly had compassion for the harvest mouse, the mountain daisy, and the wounded hare in memorable poems about them. We echo his expression of the love of friends every time we join hands for the chorus of Auld Lang Syne at the end of one of our dancing events. He firmly believed that love and respect don't depend on wealth or position in society. He said the rank is but the guinea's stamp, the man's the gowd for all that, the man's the gold. The final verse of his great poem and prayer for the human race sums it up. Then let us pray that come it may, as come it will for all that sense and worth o'er all the earth shall bear the gree and all that. For all that and all that, it's coming yet for all that. The man to man, the world o'er, shall brothers be for all that. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, I give you the toast to the immortal memory of Robert Burns. Robert Burns.
Thank you, Jim. That was fascinating. The next dance is Confused Highland. This is also a modern dance devised by Wendy West and Alex Gray for 2 men and 4 ladies, performed by Tunbridge dancers to the mouth music of Sandra Thompson. And now James Fairbairn will propose a toast for the Lassies.
Proposing the toast to the Lassies is always a tricky proposition. And as we grind our way through the 21st century, it seems to become even more daunting. And so I'm going to start by apologising in advance to anybody whom I may offend. Heaven forbid. So I'd like to look at two aspects of Robert Burns' relationship with the Lassies. My love, she's but a lassie yet. My love, she's but a lassie yet. I'll let her starn a year or twa. She'll no be half sae saucy yet. Now Burns wrote this after having been turned down by one of the belles of Mauchline on the grounds that he was A, too poor, and B, too lowly, because at that point he was only the son of a tenant farmer scraping a living on the poor land at Loch Lee. Then he goes on, I rue the day I socht her o. I rue the day I socht her o. Wha gets her needna say he's wooed, he may say he's bocht her o. So now he's saying if that lassie, and obviously his amour propre has been, quite badly pricked. If that lassie marries somebody, it'll be because of wealth and money and position, and not for love. A pretty damning indictment. Come draw a drap of the best of it yet. Come draw a drap of the best of it yet. Gae seek ye pleasure where ye will. Here, I never missed it yet. So Robert is saying to his young bachelor friends at the Tarbolton Bachelors Club, oh, you can go off and do what you like. Go and chase the lassies if you want. I've done with all that. I'm going to stick with my glass of whisky, my old reliable friend who never lets me down. And then the last verse. We're all dry with the drinking o't. We're all dry with the drinking o't. The minister kissed the fiddler's wife. He couldna preach for thinking o't. Oh, what's this we have? We've got a minister, we've got a fiddler, and we've got lots of whisky. I know, we've got a wedding. And the fiddler's there to give the music, to play for the dancing. The minister's there to join the happy couple, and the whisky's there to make sure everybody has a good time. But if we drink whisky, our inhibitions get lowered, and the minister, although he was a minister still fashed with fleshly lust, as Holy Willie would have it, so far forgot himself as to kiss the fiddler's wife. And then he was so mortified at this terrible sin that he had committed that he couldn't preach at the wedding. So in these 4 lines, or rather 4 verses, Burns says quite a lot about the relationships between men and women and the various hierarchies there are in our society. And although he was writing over 200 years ago, a lot of what he says is quite relevant today. But, Burns was also a man of great sensibility. And looking at a different aspect of his character, I'd like to read you a poem he wrote to his wife, Jean Armour. It isna, Jean, thy bonny face or shape that I admire, although thy beauty and thy grace might weel a walk desire. Something in ilka part of thee to praise, to love, I find. But dear as is thy form to me, still dearer is thy mind. Nae mair ungenerous wish I hae, nor stronger in my breast, than if I canna mak it say, at least to see thee blessed. Content am I, if heaven shall give but happiness to thee, and as wi' thee I'd wish to live, for thee I'd bear to dee. I think that's an amazing sentiment for any human being to say about any other human being, and I think it's beautiful. So just to finish, back to Burns at his rollicking best, their tricks and craft hae put me daft, there being the lassies, of course. They've ta'en me in and all that, poor little Robert being inveigled into all kinds of terrible things by these lassies. But clear your decks, for here's the sex. I like the jads for all that. So, gentlemen, and anybody else, please join me in raising a glass to the lassies and anybody else. The lassies. Well, I've not often been able to follow myself with myself, but I'm doing that tonight. And we're now going to move on from the toast to the lassies to our own very special lassie, Alice Stainer, who is going to sing for us. I was at a virtual burn celebration in Oxford last night and heard her sing then. She sang 2 different songs and they were absolutely lovely. So I'm looking forward very much to hearing Alice sing the Lea Rig, followed by Ye Fond Kiss. Alice.
When o'er the hill the eastern star tells Buchten time is near, my Joe, and Dowson frae the furrowed field returns it down and weary, down by the burn where Birken buds with dew are hanging clear, my Joe. I'll meet thee on the Lea Rig, kind dearie, at midnight are in Merkest Glen I drove and ne'er be weary, if through that glen I gate to thee, my kind dearie, although the night be ne'er sae wild, and I be ne'er sae weary, I'll meet thee on the Lea Rig, my kind dearie. The hunter lows the morning sun to rouse the mountain deer, my Joe. At noon the fisher seeks the glen, down the burn to steer, my Joe. Give me the hour glowing grey, it makes my heart say cheery, to meet thee on the Lea Rig, my kind dearie. A fond kiss, and then we sever. A farewell, alas, forever. Deep in heart-wrung tears I'll pledge thee, warring sighs and groans I'll wage thee. Who shall say that fortune grieves him, while the star of hope she leaves him? Mean a cheerful twinkle lights me, dark despair around benights me. I'll ne'er blame my partial fancy, nay think could resist my Nancy, but to see how was to love her, love but her, and love forever. Had we never loved, say kindly, had we never loved, say blindly, never met, nor thine be ilk joy and treasure, peace, enjoyment, love, and pleasure. A front kiss, and then we sever. A farewell, alas, forever. Deep in Hatron tears I'll pledge thee, warring sighs and groans I'll wage thee, warring sighs and groans I'll wage thee.
Well, I think there's a cue for thunderous applause. Unfortunately, we can't do that tonight, but I'm sure everyone would join me in thanking Alice for those beautiful renditions of two lovely, lovely love songs, even if one is very sad. I'm now going to invite Iris Renane to reply to my toast to the lassies. And as usual, Iris will have the last word. Over to you, Iris.
First of all, I would like to thank James for the very gentle toast to the lassies. Should old acquaintance be forgot? How many times have we sung those words over the years? And I'm not saying that I would have forgotten you without Zoom, but it does help to see everyone's name on screen just under your faces. The 2020 Burns Night season was a highlight of last year, since it was shortly afterwards that we went into lockdown and then there was no more. And maybe it is only when you are forced apart that you realize how important it is to be together. So what do I miss most during this lockdown? I miss seeing you, my Scottish dancers and friends, and getting ready in the evening in anticipation of meeting everyone and Scottish dancing, and falling into bed happy and exhausted. Instead, I've been tied to the sofa, reading, knitting, listening to music, watching and re-watching the lovely Netflix series Bridgerton, and of course logging into Zoom meetings. But it's not the same really. I miss the social contact. And what about going out? Once a week I visit our support bubble, Matthew, my dancing partner, who works for Public Health England. He is the lead bioinformatician and is working long and lonely hours from home. He's working endlessly. In contrast, I've been at home with time on my hands and dangerously close to the cake tin. But to be fair, I have had a wonderful stress-free time with my husband and 4 sons. We've played games and learned new things and went for very long walks in Paintshill Park, which is built, designed and finished during Robbie Burns's time by the Right Honourable Charles Hamilton. I miss dressing up. There is no dressing up in lockdown. But you look all very lovely. The lassies add beauty and glamour to any social event, but when it comes to a ball, there is nothing more impressive than a long line of lads clad in Highland dress. And I'm not the only one thinking like that. I remember an evening on a summer Tuesday in Pont Street when we had just parked. A car went by and someone wolf whistled loudly out of the window. At first I thought, oh, it's been some time since that happened. And then I realized I stood hidden, they couldn't even see me. And what had attracted their attention had been the kilt hose and kilted backside of a Scottish dancer reaching into the boot. And quite rightly so, we lassies like it when the lads wear a kilt. This pandemic will end and we will meet again, vaccinated and dancing. And at the end of the evening, when we come to the words, we'll take a cup of kindness yet. I'm not sure about you, but it will have some extra meaning for me. So please raise your glass to the times ahead, to the times ahead going out and dressing up with the lads.
Thank you, Iris. It was lovely to see and hear you again. The next dance is the Argyll Broadswords, another McNab dance performed by 4 men from Tunbridge Dancers, Brian Breeden's pipe band.
So after that very vigorous dancing by those gentlemen over the broadswords, it's now about to be our turn to do a little bit more dancing as well. But first of all, we're going to hear again from Merrill Thompson on the origins of the music and the instructions for the Dashing White Sergeant. And immediately after that, Davidia Milne will give us a quick recap. I should just say regarding Merrill and Ian, and also the third member of their trio, Kaz Sloan, they've done a tremendous job over several decades now of resurrecting tunes from the 18th and 19th centuries and bringing them back into circulation. And we really ought to acknowledge that and thank them for having done it. So on to Merrill and the origins of the Dashing White Sergeant.
The dance The Dashing White Sergeant is well known as a fixture at Cayley's Scottish dances and reeling parties. The tune was written by Henry Rawley Bishop, who was active in the early 19th century, writing arias and operas. He worked for all the London theatres, including the Royal Opera House, the Theatre Royal Drury Lane, Vauxhall Gardens and the Haymarket. His best known work is Home Sweet Home, written in 1823. However, he was also the composer of the music used for the dance The Nut. The music we associate with the Dashing White Sergeant was written by Bishop and used in a set of quadrilles with dance instructions by Charles T. Sykes, the Royal Highlander quadrilles, as the fourth quadrille in the set and called Lady Glenorchy. By 1825, the tune appears as a song sung to great acclaim with the most unbounded applause by Miss Stevens. Chivers, in his 1822 manual, The Modern Dancing Master, has dance instructions for a single quadrille and for a country dance called La Belle Sergeant, and this uses Bishop's tune. However, the dance is not the same as the dance which is danced today, and is 40 bars rather than 32. By 1841, Frederick Hill, in his notebook, known as the Hill Manuscript, describes a dance called the Dashing White Sergeant, again with different instructions and no music. The change leading to the current instruction seems to have come about by accident. In David Anderson's Ballroom Guide of 1890, which has instructions but not music, there is a dance called the Dashing White Sergeant, but with completely different instructions from today's. Another dance, La Danse Florence, appears 2 dances later in the book and is identical to our Dashing White Sergeant. This appears to be an original dance by the author David Anderson. It seems that the music for the Dashing White Sergeant happened to be used at some point for La Danse Florence and became associated with it, and this link has lasted, the dance finally being published in Book 3 of the Royal Scottish Country Dance Society.
This dance is a round-the-room dance with 3 facing 3, and it starts with circle to the left and back, then the person in the middle faces the person on his or her right, sets and turns 2 hands. Then you face the person who was on your left, and you set again and turn 2 hands. You're now facing the first person you thought of, and you're doing a left shoulder reel of 3 across the dance and ending in your lines. You then advance for 2, retire for 2, and if you're in your kitchen, you'll want to go under the arch that's clockwise and turn about, ready to start again. This music is, I believe, played 5 times through, so if you find it a little bit tiring, dance it 2 or 3 times and then listen for the rest. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ian and Merrill and Davinia. For the finale, we have 3 dances. The first is a pas de deux, the Mrs. Grant of Monymusk, devised by Mrs. Isabel Cram, performed by 8 ladies from Tunbridge dancers. The second, the 1st of August, is a solo hard shoe dance directed by Mrs. McNabb, performed by the Scottish National Dance Company to Colin Robertson on his tin whistle. The last dance, also in McNabb, is McKenzie of Seaforth, performed by 6 men from Tunbridge dancers. The piper is Ian Haggis.
Dancers and non-dancers, members and non-members, what riches we have enjoyed this afternoon to celebrate the birthday of Robert Burns. We may not be able to dance at the moment, but we can celebrate with music, song, history, poetry, dance to watch, and even live music to dance to, albeit virtually. Assisted by such clear recaps, and then speech, an immortal memory, a toast to the lassies, an elegant reply, all to remember, and the haggis well and truly addressed. A big thank you to all those who have contributed. You will see there is a list of them on your screens. Some who performed live this afternoon, and some who took the time to record new or repair old videos. Thank you to Thelma for her eye-catching logo, Joanne for her encouragement, her enthusiasm and electronic expertise, and a big thank you to Peter, whose idea this was, who prepared the programme, invited the contributions, and made available these amazing Tunbridge Dancers recordings. What a treat they are. And then most important, the people who are here. Thank you for supporting us to keep us dancing at home. The chat function will stay open for half an hour with music after the polka. So do stay online and catch up with friends. We shall dance again sometime, somewhere, but meanwhile, let us all stand and join the Cregellachie band in Auld Lang Syne, followed by the polka. Keep safe, everybody, and see you soon.
Thank you very much to everybody who attended our events this evening. As Rachel said, chat will be open for about half an hour. We'd also like to wish a very special birthday to Margaret Rutherford, who will be 100 later on this year. That's Ian Rutherford's mother, so many happy returns when that comes, a real landmark birthday. So do please stay and use the chat function, chat to all attendees, and we look forward to seeing you very soon.